আমরার মাঝে এখানে এখনো কোনো বিলিয়নিয়ার নাই।
We have always been micromanagers, micro business people.
আমেরিকার মাঝে ডিফারেন্স কিতা আর ব্রিটেনের মাঝে ডিফারেন্স কিতা?
China was as poor as Bangladesh 30 years ago. I saw it physically.
There's really limited people's ability to take on risk.
There are 156 billionaires in Britain. 17 of them Indian and Pakistani origin. Mittal groups or Isa brothers. আমরার মাঝে এখানে এখনো কোনো বিলিয়নিয়ার নাই। You're an accountant, sir.
I think there are billionaires that we're not aware of, but for those that are visible to us, that we see around us, you don't see billionaires.
Now, billionaires are in Bangladesh. We have.
Also possibly in the UK, that are British Bangladeshi legacies. But again, we'll talk about that later. But let me just tell you about how you become a billionaire. You can't become a billionaire by opening a restaurant or a grocery shop. You've got to have a business that runs 24 hours, that you can scale up not just nationally but internationally, and allows a demand which is far greater than what we see around us. So those things we haven't been able to do. There are projects in hand that allows you to do that. And again, things like technologies, things like AI, are those things that cuts across communities. আমরা কিতা করছি, আমরা রেস্টুরেন্ট হল খুললিয়ারি, আমরা লোকাল এরিয়া হয়তো 2-3টা আরও দ্বারা কাছে ব্রাঞ্চ হল খুললিয়ারি, আমি মনে ফোকাস রাখছি, আমি ক্যাশ কন্ট্রোল রাখছি, আমার ব্যবসা ভালো হয়েছে, given us a good life, it's allowed us to build assets, but it hasn't allowed us to expand or to scale up to an extent that allows us to become bigger. So let me give you an example. The restaurant group, which was worth about £2.5 billion. The company owned places like Wagamama and others, those sorts of chains. That was available for sale during COVID, about £53 million. So if a few of us within the restaurant trade bought that chain out, they had about 2,500 restaurants. If we bought that chain out and managed to survive COVID and then restarted it, then automatically, the value has now gone up to about £600-700 million. That value increase results from that setup and that infrastructure. So those sorts of things we don't have the mindset for, we don't have the patience for, but people, the younger generation, like the two Jabirs here, they have a mindset and they have a vision that allows you to grow beyond your immediate vicinity. And what we have always been, micromanagers, micro business people. Once we've made our first million, once we've made our first 10 million, that is enough. We're comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with that. I'm sure a lot of us are. But to become a billionaire, you don't think about money. You think about the processes. You think about how you then streamline that business, that it runs itself, sustains itself. You don't take any part in it, but it allows scalability within a very easy platform and time frame.
আমরা খারারে বিলিয়নিয়ার হইতাম পারি, বিলিয়ন কিলা গণন একটু গণা বুঝাই বানি আমারে।
So, for example, if you owned 3 streets in Mayfair, that would be worth about £3 billion.
How many streets do you own?
But again, that's the sort of scale that you're looking at.
এখন 100 মিলিয়নে হইব না 1000 মিলিয়নে হইব?
1000 million is 1 billion. So a good contract with the defense industry would easily make you a billionaire. So if you're into defense industry, if you can then sort of tie in buyers and sellers into a multi-billion pound contract, that would make you a billion.
এখন যদি একজনের কাছে 500 million থাকে and he goes and borrow $1 billion from a bank, do we still call him a billionaire?
On paper, he controls that. He has the economic power to make a difference, and that's $1 billion effect. And most people are. Elon Musk is a trillionaire on paper. So, if he cashed that out,
আমি আরো সহজ করি আপনার কাছে। একজনের কাছে 250 million he paid and he borrowed 75 leverage from a bank. Now he's now got a £1 million worth of assets. Can we call him a billionaire? £1 billion worth of asset. Can I call him a billionaire?
Yes.
I don't think so. It's not his money. How are you going to call him a billionaire?
He's an accountant, let me see.
Okay, all right.
But is any of it our money? But he's able to control that economic power that allows him to do various things. So a lot of industries are hedged, they are leveraged, they are funded in a way which other people's invest into it. Without networking, you cannot become rich. So I employ the best people that do the work that I would have then otherwise had to focus in on. And if you employ the best people, set up systems, and allow it naturally to scale up, that's where the money comes in. So, for example, any of the chains that you see around the high street, that was first started off from one shop. McDonald's started off from one shop, and then they scaled it up. Not only selling the food, but building the infrastructure, buying the properties. Now they're a $1 trillion company. IBM, for example, started from a garage. And again, by building the products they needed to, building the hardware, building the software, and then scaling it out on a global marketplace.
Right, to serious Matuzayaro. 11.5% entrepreneur in Britain, but America is 16.5%. America was a difference kita, Britain was a difference kita.
Bigger pool of customers means that if you start something off, you can scale it much easier.
Because they are together 50 countries together.
And they are
50 state.
They're an equity owner, equity. So all of their pension funds goes into investing into businesses. So they are reinvesting into the products that they also use. And therefore, because it's a bigger marketplace, it's a continent in itself. It has everything that you need. You can grow everything, you can produce everything, but it's obviously shipped out all its manufacturing to China. And China, think about it, 30 years ago, China was as poor as Bangladesh. 30 years ago. I saw it physically. I went to China, I went to Hong Kong in 1997, and China was desperate. Chinese people wanted to come into Hong Kong.
They produce more billionaires than anybody else now.
But because, again, they managed to sort out their systems in a way which allowed them to grow, build their technologies, build their systems.
Right, I'll come back to you. Right, young man, let's come to you. Why do you think we don't have no billionaire in our community?
It's a prevalent kind of question at hand, and there's a few reasons, but I think the main reason, and holistically when we look at it, us as British Bengalis, as British Bangladeshis, we're still very, very early on in our careers. And, we've been in this country for maybe 60, 70 years. And when we look at generations prior to us, for example, the first and second generation of people who've come here, for example, my father, my grandfather, the first instinct that they had was survival. And this survival instinct has really limited people's ability to take on risk. And that's why we've focused on cash flow heavy businesses, such as restaurants, such as grocery businesses, etc., just to focus on that survival, as opposed to how can I scale my equity to a point where I can become a billionaire? And this is kind of the grave problem at hand. That being said, I think it's very important to understand the first and second generation of our fathers and our grandfathers, etc., have done so well for ourselves, where it's created a platform for people amongst us, especially in my generation, to potentially go on and become billionaires, inshallah.
What business are you involved?
So we are in the investment space, focused on halal and ethical investing.
What sort of return do we get?
It's a brilliant question, and each asset class has variable returns on kind of depending on what you're investing into. So there's no fixed return that you can very much say that you're going to receive. And of course, past performance is not indicative of future results. But in certain cycles, for example, today, the stock market actually opened and it was up about 2%. However, since then, in just a matter of time, it's now down 2% or so. And all it takes is those matter of moments for your money and your equity to change.